The air in Iron Heights prison usually hung heavy with a palpable tension, a mixture of despair and defiance. But on this particular day, as Barry Allen phased through a wall into its heart, something was profoundly, unsettlingly different. A guard, usually gruff and weary, hummed a jaunty tune as he patrolled, a wide, unwavering smile plastered across his face. In the cell blocks, inmates, notorious for their surly dispositions, laughed with an almost manic glee, their movements light, their voices bubbling with an unnatural cheer. It was the kind of happiness that felt less like joy and more like a fever dream, an emotional straitjacket. Barry, still raw from the devastating news of Wally West's apparent death in Heroes in Crisis, had sought the familiar routines of Central City to ground himself. Iron Heights, with its predictable misery, should have been a grim comfort. Instead, it was an alien landscape of forced, unsettling euphoria. His superspeed perception picked up the subtle tells, eyes that didn't quite meet their smiles, a stiffness in their movements, as if their bodies were being puppeteered by an unseen, saccharine force. This wasn't genuine contentment. This was a terrifying, programmed bliss. His gut twisted. Only one of his rogues, with their twisted sense of humor and dangerous ingenuity, could orchestrate such a bizarre scenario. It had to be Axel Walker, the trickster. As Barry moved deeper, the pervasive happiness began to chafe at his own grief, like sand in an open wound. He found himself navigating a labyrinth of grinning faces, each one a silent scream. The source of the control wasn't immediately apparent, but he could feel a low-frequency hum, a subtle energy field permeating the very air. He needed to find the trickster, and fast, before this insidious joy completely consumed the prison's inhabitants. His search led him to a deserted corridor, strangely devoid of the pervasive smiles. There, leaning against a wall, was a figure dressed in an odd, anachronistic uniform, a chillingly familiar cold gun at his hip, but with a different, almost regal bearing. This was not Leonard Snart. This was Commander Cold, a time-displaced hero from a future where Snart had redeemed himself. "You feel it too, don't you?" the commander stated, his voice a low rumble, devoid of surprise. The unsettling hum of false contentment. It stretches through time, even to my era, as a cautionary tale of psychological warfare. Barry, surprised but trusting of the future Flash's ally, nodded. "Trickster," he confirmed, the name of bitter taste. "He's weaponized happiness." Commander Cold explained that he had tracked a temporal anomaly, a ripple in the time stream linked to a significant, destructive event in the past. This very prison. He knew the general outcome, but not the specifics of how it unfolded, or how to prevent it without causing further damage to the timeline. Their collaboration was forged in an instant, a shared understanding of the bizarre, high-stakes situation. Together, the Scarlet Speedster and the future commander moved through Iron Heights, a strange duo amidst the smiling madness. Barry's speed allowed them to bypass the mind-controlled guards, while Commander Cold's advanced perception and tactical knowledge helped them pinpoint the source of the mind control. They discovered small, almost invisible emitters placed throughout the prison, radiating the frequency that induced this forced cheer. Trickster's technological prowess, often underestimated due to his clownish persona, was chillingly effective. Their path ultimately led them to the warden's office, where Trickster sat on the desk, legs casually swinging, a wide, genuinely joyful grin on his face, a stark contrast to the hollow smiles of his victims. He was surrounded by an array of repurposed carnival equipment, wires snaking from a central console, humming with the insidious energy. "Well, well, if it isn't the Flash," he chortled, "and a new friend. Welcome to the happiest place on Earth. No more grumpy faces, no more despair, just pure, unadulterated joy." Trickster began to monologue, detailing his twisted vision. He wasn't just controlling them, he was liberating them from their negative emotions, forcing them into a state of blissful ignorance. He truly believed he was doing good, a frightening testament to his profound psychological instability. He saw the inmate's misery as a problem to be fixed, not understood or addressed, but simply overridden. The confrontation was swift and chaotic. Trickster, even without his usual gadgets, was unpredictable. He activated traps, released bursts of amplified happy gas, turning the very atmosphere into a weapon. Barry and Commander Cold moved with precision, dismantling the emitters, disrupting the signal. The forced smiles began to waver, replaced by dazed confusion, then a slow return of fear and anger as their true emotions resurfaced. Cornered, his twisted masterpiece crumbling around him, Trickster's joyful facade cracked. His eyes, once sparkling with manic glee, now held a glint of something far more volatile: rage, resentment, and a desperate, childish need for control. "You don't understand," he screamed, his voice no longer light, but raw with frustration. "I was making them better. You ruined it. You always ruin everything." With a final, desperate act, Trickster triggered a series of hidden explosives he had rigged throughout the prison, not to escape, not even as a tactical maneuver, but as an act of pure, destructive nihilism. The very walls of Iron Heights shuddered, then buckled. Alarms blared, screams erupted, and a wave of pure, unadulterated chaos washed over the facility. This wasn't a playful trick. It was a desperate, petulant tantrum on a massive scale, turning the prison that smiled into a crumbling, exploding nightmare. Barry and Commander Cold raced against the collapsing structure, their focus shifting from stopping Trickster to saving lives. They moved in a blur, phasing inmates and guards through walls, creating pathways through rubble, guiding people to safety as the prison imploded around them. Trickster himself vanished in the chaos, a fleeting shadow swallowed by the dust and debris. His ultimate fate, for that moment, unknown, but his impact irrevocably etched into the landscape. The destruction of Iron Heights wasn't just a physical collapse, it was a stark, brutal reminder of the psychological depths of the Flash's rogues. Trickster, often dismissed as merely a clown, a prankster, had escalated his gimmick into something horrifyingly dangerous. His desire for forced happiness wasn't a whimsical act, it was a manifestation of deep-seated control issues, a terrifying inability to cope with the complexities of human emotion. The explosion wasn't about winning, it was about unleashing pure, unadulterated chaos when his fragile worldview was challenged. This incident underscored a darker truth. Behind the playful gimmicks and colorful costumes, many of the rogues harbor profound psychological instability. Captain Cold's rigid code, Mirror Master's obsession with reflections, Weather Wizard's volatile temper, all of them, like Trickster's forced joy, can turn their powers from mere criminal tools into expressions of destructive madness. It's a heavy burden for the Flash to not only fight crime, but to contend with the deeply disturbed minds of his most persistent foes. It serves as a somber echo to Barry's own grief, showing how trauma, both experienced and inflicted, can reshape reality in terrifying ways. This story of the prison that smiled before it blew up offers a fascinating, albeit dark, look into the psyche of one of the Flash's most enduring, yet often underestimated villains. It reminds us that even in the brightest, most vibrant comic worlds, there are shadows of deep complexity and unsettling darkness. What are your thoughts on Trickster's actions? Do you think the rogue's psychological instability is something that adds depth to their stories, or does it make them too dark? Share your insights in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the stranger corners of the DC Universe, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more thoughtful explorations of your favorite comic book lore. Until next time, stay curious.